Well, I'm in fact next month I'll be down at Bandler's training on his team again. This time driving, which is basically a 2-day drive. But with the way airlines are these days, I'm more likely to get there than get stranded somewhere. So it's going to be interesting. I've got a couple of books out, and you are certainly welcome to watch the previously recorded videos on my Facebook page or on my YouTube channel as well.
Oh,
And so those are all free. So all of this is free, because I want people to have some skill sets. And if you have an interest in training, then we can talk about that as well. But all of this stuff is free to, for you to use and for you to, well,
oh, there he
maybe
goes.
because, maybe he's got thunderstorms too. So
Yeah, that looked like a technical issue.
yeah, well, I mean, it happened where all of a sudden the lights all went out over here. you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
and my internet connection was, just cut off, and
yeah.
had to reset all the clocks that were plugged in.
Oh yeah, I have to turn off all my my breakers. What do you call them? Anyway, where you plug it into the wall. I guess they're called breakers, but
Yeah,
yeah, and
circuit breakers.
circuit breakers. Yeah, I plug the.
Yeah,
I have to turn them all off, and because if it strikes near here, it shocks the house. I mean, I guess I'm grounded, but I don't like to risk it.
you might want to put up a lightning rod.
Oh, really? I don't see any houses with lightning rods here.
Well,
I mean,
no, it's not the
yeah,
style, but
yeah.
you're not originally from there, so you can import it. You might have a new business.
Yeah, interesting, interesting. I know every house has a grounded. I mean, there's a every house has a pole,
Yeah,
going into the ground, but
well, that's the lightning rod.
it's just going the other way. Yeah,
Well, you want to have a decorative one, I
yeah.
mean,
One on the roof that goes straight into the ground. I got you.
yeah, I mean, if there's a wire that runs from it,
Yeah,
takes it down and grounds it. They still have them a lot in the Midwest, where they have tornadoes and stuff like that.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, well, we can get started a bit, and people will trickle in as normal.
Okay.
So basically, getting back to what we were talking about, and this goes towards the conversational hypnosis piece, and let's talk a little bit about how this cuts in, and then I've got something else, another application actually that I think is going to be very useful for your clients and things like that. So again, we were talking about the role of religion as well, and what the intersection was.
Mhm.
And again, this is not going towards somebody's faith. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the structure of how religious ceremonies are are put together
Yeah.
in order and this goes back all the way throughout history. If you get into the mystery religions in classical Greece and Rome, and that translates further on. The Jewish religions, where you have the temple, obviously, and you have the Holy of Holies, where it was separated because there. I mean, where you're not allowed to go in, only the priest is allowed to go, and that is a characteristic of the mystery religion, in which that's the mystery, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, so that piques the curiosity and it focuses the attention on what's going on. Very similar to what you would do in a hypnotic situation. In the Asian religions, where you have the heavy emphasis on meditation and chanting. What else is going on there? Well, everybody has pretty much seen like the Buddhist monks chanting, right?
Right.
There's a sonorous type of chanting that's going on, right? That you can feel the vibrations that they're making. Uh, oh, somebody's coming in.
Oh, you're just getting on a roll.
Well, I'll continue. Hello, Tom. Welcome.
Welcome.
How are you?
I am well. So we only have two people on. I mean, it's just you and I guess. Yeah, cool.
Well, we have one. We have Matt Knowles on as well. We had another person from Dublin, but I don't know whether his connection cut off.
Okay.
And there people are may trickle in as time goes on, so we have more or less, but this is going to be totally interactive. And I don't know if you've seen the other videos yet. They
No,
are available.
okay, no, I will definitely check them out, and I may have to drop off early because I'm on the East Coast and it's been a long
I
day.
Yeah, I understand. Well, I'm giving the warning out to everybody because I'm also on the East Coast. I lost power earlier today, so if we lose power, we'll pick it up again. I'll reschedule, but at the same time, we're going to go on as long as we can.
Sure.
Uh, and so where are you located, Tom?
I'm in New Jersey.
Okay, well, I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm not probably not that far from you.
Probably not that far. Yeah,
So
right.
where in New Jersey are you?
Central New Jersey, so I'm probably like 25 miles to Princeton if I take Route 78 and go
Yeah,
out
okay.
west.
Well, yeah, I'm in Yardley, so I'm right across from Princeton.
Oh, it's a nice town.
Yeah, so
Very
it's
nice.
not that far away, right? So we're probably getting the same weather, so I'll understand if you lose lights and all that type of stuff too. So, so anyway, uh, if let me finish up what the point I was making, and then I'm going to ask you if you could think about it. What do you want to get out of this session? And because I want to make sure we're covering that as well in part of this when we're talking about conversational hypnosis in this. And it doesn't have to be limited to that, but we'll be talking about how the application works and all that, and give you some things you can start using. So anyway, we were talking about how religion and this not the faith of in anybody's particular faith, but the structure of religious ceremonies are actually hypnotic in the way they're structured, and it's on purpose. There's a reason for that, and it goes back into our history as human beings. And so I'll pick up the point where we're saying in the Eastern religions, everybody's seen the Buddhist monks chanting, that sonorous tone they get, right? And that goes into their meditation. It helps put them into that mental state, which is very much the same as when you're doing hypnosis, is focusing the attention and giving an overall experience, an immersion experience, where in the chanting you get the sound, obviously. You're cutting off, because their eyes are closed, you're cutting off the visual input to focus on that feeling and to really focus the thoughts. In the same way, in the Western religions, going all the way back, to classical times, the mystery religions are there to focus the attention, whether it's through dance with the ecstasy religions, whether it's through chanting and singing and music. Well, you get that in our religions today. Again, not talking about faith, we're talking about the structure of the religious experience, which is in many ways hypnotic. And so that's how, when we're talking to people and using conversational hypnosis and regular hypnosis as well, the whole point is to give a person an immersive experience. Now, when you're doing regular hypnosis, taking people through an induction and all of that, they're voluntarily allowing you to guide them through. When you're doing conversational hypnosis, you're using the way you speak, the rhythm of your speaking, the tone of your voice, the tonality you use when you tell people to experience certain things. That's when you actually begin to bring them into a different point of view and a different world in their own mind. And that's what conversational hypnosis is doing in this case. And so the better you are at communicating this, the more you'll see it translate into different areas, because hypnosis is very common. It's just we're not necessarily aware of it happening all the time. And conversational hypnosis is actually the most common form of hypnosis, because you see it happening in things like comedians. When comedians are telling you jokes, it's something we grew up with stories. I mean, when we were little kids, what are the magic words? Once upon a time,
Oh yeah, once upon.
right? And you're transported into a different world. And movies, again, it's an immersive experience. So they what do? They shut the lights, right? To focus your attention on what's going on. But it's not just the pictures, because if you ever saw a movie without the music, it's actually silly. I mean, so you can look it up on YouTube when you see them scoring a movie, right? And you see this part of the movie, they're just running around and they're doing their thing, but it's only part of the production. It totally loses its magic. But when you're actually in that experience where you're seeing it, you're hearing the dialogue, you're seeing the acting, and you're hearing the music, it's that immersive experience that's hypnotic in itself. And we can create that experience by just speaking to people. And that's where the conversational hypnosis piece comes in. So with that said, Tom, what would you like to get out of this session?
Just to be able to communicate better, probably in business settings mostly.
Okay. Do you have to give presentations and things like that, or do you have meetings with clients or one-on-ones?
Yeah, I do marketing work, so I'm talking to vendors, I'm talking to the sales department, I'm talking to it's pretty much it. My boss and other people in the company I work to and with and for. Sometimes, sometimes I don't communicate that well, so it's probably because I'm kind of really engrossed in my own self. And I don't really pick up on the cues of other people sometimes on how they want to be communicated to, right? So,
Okay, perfect. Because this is the next step in the conversational hypnosis piece, but you can pick up a lot of the other pieces, and we can always review the other pieces as well. So one of the key things is, people often have problems with communication and conversational hypnosis and influencing and persuading people, in that they're trying to throw stuff out to see what sticks, right? So we've all been involved with, unfortunately, where we had a bad salesperson, right? And a bad salesperson is somebody who's going to just throw their features and benefits at you because they're trying to see what sticks, what you would react to, right? And generally, it's 99% of the stuff you're not interested in talking about.
pretty much, because it's not about you, right? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, and that's exactly true. And well, why does that happen?
Well, because we're more interested in feeling good about ourselves and less concerned about putting ourselves in the other people's shoes to understand what they want.
Well, I would suggest this, that it's actually the reason why it happens almost 100% of the time in that situation is because the salesperson's afraid to ask.
Okay.
Afraid
To ask.
think of it.
No, they're afraid. If they're afraid to ask, because they think if you ask a person, then the person will think you don't know what you're talking about.
Well, right? Maybe.
Sometimes. Well, that's why I asked you, what do you want to get out of this?
I want to be able to understand and get feedback in how I'm doing in the communication process.
Right. And the way to get feedback is the responses you get. So if you're not getting the responses that you're after, then you're probably not communicating as well as you could.
Oh, of course. Absolutely. Right?
So it goes down towards what's called criteria and values elicitation in this case, right? So Are you familiar with criteria and values? I don't know if you've had any training in NLP or hypnosis or anything like that, or
Yeah. So criteria is what is that like? Toward away from and all that
not
stuff.
quite, not quite. A criteria is what they want, what the other person wants, right?
Okay.
Or criteria. Okay, the values are what the other person wants. The criteria are how do they know that they get it? How do they want it?
Oh, so feedback. Okay.
Well, it's not yes and no, right? So if I ask you, Tom, you decided to come to this meetup for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's important for you in this meetup and what you want to get out of it?
Um, Learning about conversational hypnosis,
Okay.
um, having to connect with like-minded people, because I don't get out that much anymore.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And let me ask you this. How would you like to be able to use these skill sets? In business, you had mentioned in work.
yeah, I think what I want to do is just kind of get my brain back um, into understanding how to communicate better. If that
Right.
makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when we're communicating on the level of what the other person wants, right, then we're connecting as opposed to just what we want. And we can connect what we want with the other person when we're giving them what they want as well, right? And we're talking about the same thing, or we'll know right away that they're not the right person for us to talk to. And, we can have a nice interaction and we go our separate ways, but we're not spending a lot of time talking past each other
Right.
because we're just having direct communication this way.
Okay.
Right. And it's a lot easier for us to interact when we're talking about the same things, because otherwise I'm going one way, you're going the other way, Matt's going another way, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait, what were you talking about?
It happens all the time at home.
Well, that's why that again, what happens is most people have an internal dialogue that's going on, and they're translating what you're saying against that dialogue.
So they're not even listening, basically.
Well, they're hearing, but they're not necessarily listening.
Okay.
But they'll listen when you use certain ways of communicating and speaking with them. And a lot of that happens when you understand what's important for the other person, because they'll tell you. Nobody ever asked, right? So they'll tell you, and you use those same words with them because then they know that you're connecting with them.
Yeah, rapport building. Sure.
Well, it goes beyond rapport. It goes beyond rapport building because it's almost like this is going back a ways, right? It's going back to the time. Remember when you had VHS and Betamax?
Yeah, that was a short-lived period, right?
Well, yeah, but what happens is there were two different systems, right? And you remember when Windows computers and Apple computers couldn't communicate?
No.
Well, there was a time when they couldn't network.
Oh, could not communicate. I heard
Yeah.
could communicate. Yeah, I didn't think they were ever able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, they couldn't network.
Yeah.
You have to build a bridge, and it was just the worst possible thing. That's why companies would say, no, you can't use an Apple. It's like
Right.
because they couldn't do it, right? Or it was just way too expensive, and there were too many differences. Now everything works pretty much well together.
Yeah, no, I agree. Much better than
And
it
it's
was.
that same type of thing that what we're doing is we're connecting that same way, where even though we're not speaking exactly the same, when you use the right words, then the other person knows that you're actually communicating with them, as opposed to when you're speaking your way and they're speaking their way. Right?
Okay.
And it works even if the other person is not fluent in your language. You just have to have more patience sometimes to make sure they understand.
Yeah, I mean, I get all this stuff intellectually for sure. Yeah.
Well, that's why we'll have time to practice.
All right.
So one of some of the stuff that we talked about, and it's never a bad thing to reiterate the points, is pay attention to the speed that you speak at, right? Because people in the Northeast tend to speak faster than people, from the South and the Midwest and California, the West Coast. And when people speak really quickly, and the person who's listening is not used to hearing people speak quickly, they have to catch up. Right? And it's not a matter of how smart they are. It's a matter of how quickly they're used to processing information. So pay attention to how fast the other person is speaking and match that speed.
Good idea.
Right? Because again, especially if you're giving a presentation or you're in a meeting, right? If you go too fast, the other people can't necessarily catch up. Right? You have to give them a time to catch up. You have to give Paul enough space for them to catch up in order to accept your ideas. So I would suggest in a business context or in a meeting context, because Matt, you run meetings, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you actually should go at, so say there's one person who you're concentrating on, or who's like the main person in the meeting that's running a meeting. Yeah, I know, Matt, you run your meetings, so it's a little bit different, but it's important to go at the speed at which the main person, say your boss is meeting, right? You're in a staff meeting with your boss, Tom. Go at the speed your boss is talking at.
I get to the point where I guess we start out intellectualizing it and being at first attentive to it, like consciously, and then it gets into this unconscious sort of habit where I tune into people. It comes across now as energetically, where
Yeah. Well, that's your cue, whether you're connecting or not, and that's because you've been doing this for a little while. But in business, I would say, Tom, it's important to start doing it one-on-one with the people you're working with. Notice the effect you're having and the connection you're having with them. And it also gives you practice, because if you're working with a whole bunch of different people, you start broadening your range of speed that you can speak at and communicate at. Right. And so you could do it at home. You could do it at work with your boss or your colleagues, or just about somebody you meet in the store, right, that you're interacting with. And that's the best place to start, because then it becomes natural for you.
Yeah, so pay attention, basically.
Well, it's always important to pay attention.
Pay attention, match the speed. I kind of slowed down for you a little bit.
Sure. Well, I'm doing it primarily because I'm from Manhattan, so I tend to normally speak much quicker. But because this is also going to be recorded, it's actually being recorded and it's going to be posted, I have to go slower, as if I'm doing a presentation. And that's why I can also emphasize certain things, because once you've gotten used to matching the speed, then you can start varying it. Right? And when you vary it, then you can emphasize certain things by either going slower, or you can do it by going faster, depending on the effect you're trying to have. Right? And it's having that that range in your communication that A, is going to make it connect with other people better, and B, make it more interesting for them to listen to. Because there has to be an oscillation, in your rhythm and in your in your speed. Otherwise, the other person will start getting bored and it'll become white noise.
Yeah, sure. I get that.
Yeah, it's normal for us. I mean, you've probably heard boring speakers before in meetings and things like that, and the mind starts drifting, start thinking about other things. People start pulling out their phones and looking up their emails and texting people and all types of stuff.
So how did you get involved with conversational hypnosis? Just curious.
Because I wanted to make money. I wanted to use it in business, and I didn't want to do it where where I'm butting my head against the wall, trying to do things. So I was working, doing some things in the former Yugoslavia. Well, it wasn't former at the time. And, of course, I didn't speak the language, so I had to learn how to communicate better. Afterwards, of course, Yugoslavia fell apart and, went into executive search. So I had to learn how to communicate better to influence and persuade people. And so I really had drilled down and studied these skill sets, got very good at it. Then I went to study with Richard Bandler as well. That's where I met Matt, because Matt had gone down to the seminars, and then I ended up on his training team.
Well,
So,
then you wound up on what? I missed that last.
Richard Bandler's training team for neurolinguistic programming.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll be going down there again
In March.
couple
Right?
of-
No.
no,
March.
in August.
April.
In August.
August. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
For the next one. So I'll be down there. Not for all of them, but part of practitioner, master practitioner, and then trainers. So, and then I have other business down there in Florida as well. So,
Cool.
so rolling it all together. It's going to be a long road trip.
Talk them into that, James.
I'm sorry?
How did you talk them into that?
I got asked. I got invited.
Oh, okay.
No, I was invited to be on the team.
Oh, good.
Yeah. The first thing it was funny because they originally thought they invited me. I was leaving. They said, "Aren't you staying?" To be honest, nobody asked.
Aren't you staying? Meaning what?
To be on the staff for the next seminar.
You didn't plant the seed. You didn't drop a hit. You didn't do anything.
No. I mean, because I've been doing it almost 10 years, so it's always no. You have to be invited. So
yeah, well, I remember how enthusiastic you were. I remember, of course, we met when you were still attending as a guest.
Yeah, but before that, I've been doing it for almost 20 years.
Oh.
So,
Did you study in Manhattan? I guess part of the.
I didn't study in Manhattan. No, not really. Not with the NLP people in Manhattan.
Okay.
I did go up to that school. That school was quite nice at the time. On 8th Street.
Yeah. That's one of them. So I studied with this guy Doug O'Brien and this guy Kevin Creedon, who actually came from the Tony Robbins world, but they were pretty connected with. They used to bring in who's that guy in England? Andy Austin used to show up sometimes, and I forget. There's so many people. It was so long ago. It was like 10 years ago. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, my whole thing was
Nick Kemp. Nick Kemp is the other guy.
Yeah, I mean, my whole thing was always, how are you applying it? Can you apply this? And it's not in a therapeutic setting, although I do coach people and things like that. That came much later, because for me, it was always about how do you apply it into normal situations, business situations, all that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I developed it and then built out from there, which is, a lot of people, not unfortunately, but they see it as a therapeutic modality, and they don't really understand how it translates into just making your life better, in all the different ways. And that's where it comes into the influence and persuasion piece. So, these are all levers of persuasion. And basically, that's where I came from on that side. And now it's expanded. I do, business globally. I use these skill sets with people who, English is not their first language. It works in, most recently in China and Japan, Brazil, Mexico, all different countries.
Yeah.
Yeah, Europe, definitely. Quite a lot of things in Europe. And it all goes down to everybody wants to tell you what they want, but nobody ever asks, right? So it's important to be the one asking, right?
I like that. I got to write that down.
Yeah, and
What
it's
do you-
recorded so you can come back to it.
Yeah. So I mean, the thing for me is that I really, really enjoy the practitioner program and the master practitioner program. The one thing that I was never able to do, maybe because I didn't ask, was I tried to just rally my class to see if we can kind of continue, practicing with each other and further developing those skill sets. And I noticed that no one wanted to do that. I even reached out on LinkedIn about 3 years ago to find some people that I can kind of continue working with. And that fell apart too. So this is really the third attempt I am to connect with like-minded people so I can, one, be reminded of what I've learned, and a lot of it I've forgotten, and two, kind of get enthusiastic and passionate again about getting into really NLP. I never really studied the Ericksonian hypnosis. I did that online with this guy, Jamie Smart, over in the UK. For some reason, I don't know why, I'm connected with all these coaches over in the UK. I don't get
Well,
that.
because there's a lot of it. There's a big market over there. And so one of the things with Ericksonian hypnosis is most of the people, not everybody, but most of the people who are teaching it are trying to teach you what Erickson did.
Yeah.
What Erickson did was very idiosyncratic to Erickson.
Mhm.
It's how Erickson did stuff that's important, because then you can make it your own. So studying the way Milton Erickson spoke, and Matt's seen video of him, and if you can look up some YouTube videos of him, was very, very idiosyncratic. I mean, the way he spoke was very idiosyncratic. The way he ran his sessions was very idiosyncratic to him as well. Some of his sessions would be 6 hours long plus, because he basically didn't have a lot of other things to do. So I think if you go back and look at the Milton model, in NLP, it breaks down what he did and how he did it, as opposed to what he did, like studying his words and things like that. And there are some things that are not appropriate outside of the therapy room. So things like, the rock is sad. Well, you could say that in a business setting, but the people will think you're insane, right? So so that it's not applicable. But what is applicable are things like, the rhythm, things like using your tonality properly, which goes into conversational hypnosis. Things like using metaphor, storytelling properly, which, I do have a separate one on this, and we'll be coming back to storytelling because it is increasingly, becoming a more valuable part of the way I'm teaching things. But there are certain ways to make it apply to what the other person wants to know. And so if you have to start with certain things, like first being able to speak in a way where the other person is going to understand what you're saying. And that first thing is how fast you speak. Because
Yeah.
if you're speaking too fast or you're speaking too slow, for the other person, they're not going to be interested.
So James, how does this fit into what Dilts did with sleight of mouth? Isn't that part of like conversational hypnosis too?
Not really. Sleight of mouth falls more into reframing.
All right. So okay, I got it. Yeah. All right. Okay. It's all coming back to me. This is great.
Yeah, I mean, so yes, reframing in certain situations is really good, but sometimes people think it's like throwing like a magic spell at somebody. It's the same thing they think of, they do an anchor or something like that, or they give an embedded command or an embedded question. If they do it and they sit there and they're looking at the person and they expect the other person to do what they say. That's not how it works. That's not how communication works. You have to keep going, right? And it has to be interactive. But people think it's magic, unfortunately, and that's the problem. It's not like, oh, I gave you an embedded command, now you're going to do what I'm saying, so I'm going to shut up and wait, and nothing happens, right? Because they may not process it that quickly.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that you are using some aspects of the Milton model in conversational hypnosis, but I thought, do you use any of the meta model? Well, you are, because you're using you use the word because a lot, so I pick up on that. So how do you kind of marry Milton model and meta model in conversational hypnosis?
They're all both parts of the same thing. So you have things like ambiguity, you have things like tonality, you have things, cause and effect, complex equivalence, and those types of things that are broken down in the Milton model. But the meta model tells you where to go. If you don't do the meta model right, the Milton model doesn't matter as much.
Well, it's like the questions, right? The meta model is like you said.
It's understanding what's going on.
Yeah, it's the understanding the criteria too, right?
Well, it's also understanding if a person says, I have a problem, right? So that's a nominalization, right? So it's like, what does that actually mean?
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
What do they mean by they say they have a problem? Because it's not a real thing. It's a nominalization. And that's where it's understanding what people want to hear, want to talk about. It's also understanding what they're not getting, because a lot of people are, and this is kind of something that we have to understand when we're doing things like conversational hypnosis. So we're not just throwing rocks against the wall. Well, we have to understand A, what they want, and B, what they're not getting. Right? Because if you're going towards something, you're also going away from something at the same time. I know you were talking about, towards and away and all that stuff. And for a lot of times, and especially with some of Tony Robbins' people, because that's how he taught it originally in Unlimited Power, in the 80s, you're either a towards person or an away person, right? And it's not. You're both. You're always both at the same time. Because if you're going away from something, you're moving towards something. The problem is most people are not have not defined that what they actually want, or they're afraid to say or verbalize even to themselves what they want because they're afraid of being disappointed. But they always know what they don't want. They always know what they're moving away from. And the people, and you've probably seen that. I know Matt's seen a lot of people like that. I've seen a lot of people like that, where they actually keep getting themselves right back into the same situation. And that's because they haven't identified and codified for themselves what they actually want. Right? So they go towards what's familiar. They move away from the situation that's bothering them, and then they circle back to what's familiar, which is what was bothering them.
Question.
Yes.
a conversational tone where it's not perceived as, a lecture in the sense of someone is greater than the other, and one is the teacher and one is the student. Let's say that you're going into a conversational tone, or you want to establish a tone where there's equals, right? Where you're
Yeah.
two equal people. And
Never
so
happens, but yeah.
one of the things that I run into, at least in the back of my mind, is when I am asking questions to get at the reality of the person's true wants or needs. I come across a nominalization, to use your example, and then I'll say, well, what does that mean? Or dig deeper into the nominalization, turn it into an action. In the back of my mind, sometimes I feel like when I'm asking these questions that it's almost as if I get into an interrogation type mode.
Yeah, I understand. So that's important then to soften, which is another part.
Soften with the tone, right? Just tone.
No, it's not just the tone. It's soften how you ask.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to get at. So that it maintains the conversational equality, and I'm not the all-knowing guru, but there's this easiness about, and yet still getting at the
Okay, so again, this goes towards range, right? This goes again. We spoke about having a greater range. So when you talk to your friends, right? When you talk to your good friends, there's a range of things. So sometimes you're serious, sometimes you joke about things, sometimes you're listening more. Sometimes you can be a little provocative as well. That is one person the guru in that case, or are you both equal still?
Well, I mean, I just don't. I don't mind coming across as a helpful guru. I just don't want it to come across as interrogation.
Right, and that's one of the keys that's really important. So I would say go back and read the 5 Keys to Hypnotic Selling, Matt. I know you have it.
I do actually. I do. I have it. How did you know I have it?
Because I remember you buying it.
Oh, you saw me buying it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you bought it.
I bought it on Amazon, didn't I? Oh, I bought it at the thing. Oh, I did. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You bought it in Orlando. That was my first book, Tom. So.
Okay.
No, that's good. It's a good book. It just reminded me. I love this. Is this one? Did you guys ever read this one? It's called Words That Change Minds. It's Shelley Charvet.
Yeah, I've read that book.
Yeah, she
But,
I'm on her Facebook, but these are all the basically the all the things that you were talking about. It's a continuation of the meta model, right?
well, somewhat, but I simplify it in the 5 Keys to Hypnotic Selling. Make it a lot easier. So
okay.
So again, when
I have read it, yes, a couple of times.
So when you actually soften it, it's like, I'm just curious, or I'm wondering, right? Or tell me, that keeps it from being an interrogation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why, and sometimes you have to add context.
I'm wondering. Put it back on me rather than, what do you mean by that? I'm wondering what you mean by that. So help me out instead of I'm going to help you out. Help me out by answering this curiosity that I have.
And this is where it gets more complex in that conversational hypnosis model. So if you have somebody and you see a nominalization, they say, well, I have a problem. It's like, well, I'm just wondering, what does that mean for you? Because I really want to understand and get to the root of this. And, if I guess, it may not be right.
Right. Shows caring rather than,
So rather than just asking a question, you add context to it. And that because also allows you to use your tonality to put in an embedded command or an embedded question. Yeah. Right? Yeah, so that's the transition, where you're using the transition to build more of a frame around what's going on. As opposed to, again, too many people want to just throw out an embedded command or an embedded question or an anchor and without context. So the other person may not get it because they just don't understand the context. Or without your understanding of the context, you may not actually end up talking about what they want to hear and what they want to talk about. Because again, that goes towards guessing about things as opposed to asking them what they mean by that. Right? Because if you Tom, you've hired people, right? For your
Yes,
business.
I have. I've hired
Right.
people. Yes.
So if somebody says, it's like says, oh, I want to be in a job where I'm challenged, well, you've probably heard that a lot, right? Or I want to have an impact,
Yeah.
right?
We can answer a bunch of different ways. How specifically? How would you like to be impactful?
I always ask, well, what does that mean for you?
Oh, okay.
because
So instead of
because
how
I don't know what if that could mean anything. It's like, what do you want to hit people? I don't know. Maybe you should be a boxer. I mean,
I
who
like
knows,
that. It's
right?
good.
So that's where, in that it's very ambiguous. So you want to start narrowing down that ambiguity to the point where they can verbalize what they want, right? And so most people won't ask. You never asked, right? Well, how do you want to be impactful? Well, I want to change the world. Well, again, that doesn't mean anything, right?
Yeah.
Or I want to help people. What does that mean? Right? It doesn't mean it's pablum. It's not real, and it could well be they haven't thought it out. It's like when you watch a beauty pageant, they say, oh, I want world peace.
Yeah.
It's like, what does that actually mean?
Yeah. What exactly? What does world peace mean? So that would be just. How did we learn that? We learned how to turn nominalizations into verbs. So how is that I got a problem. Well, how is what not how specifically, but what problem do you have, or what, or I'm really tired. Well, well, no, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around here. So right, so right, do it. Okay, so
I would say
back to you, Jim.
I would say, well, how do you know?
How do you know?
And you know what? Because so this is recorded, because we can come back and watch this again. So when I see that somebody is having a deletion or an omission, one of the meta model things, I because I know what I know as the NLP guru or whatever in the back of my mind. But when I communicate, I want to communicate, not from an all-knowing. Even my facial expression can't be. So what do you mean by that? Meaning that I know that you just screwed up or you just deleted something and you're really not. If I truly want and care about the human being that I'm talking to, and I recognize that they've made a deletion or whatever distortion, and I want to communicate caring to them, I don't have to go into a long because. I can just sort of like. I want to do it with my facial expressions. I want to do
Okay,
what
so
do you mean
Matt,
by that? But
Matt,
I don't want to take a lot of time. I want it to be in my face. So it's going to be a
okay,
quick.
so there's two things to that, right? So first, have you ever been curious about something?
Right. Yes, of course. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's
Well, that's what I'm saying. But that and this is recorded, so I want to say this while I'm thinking about it because I can
so
come
be
back.
curious.
Yeah.
That first thing is
Just
to be
show
curious.
curiosity. It's like, well, what do you mean by that? It was show
Yeah.
caring, right?
Yeah,
What did you mean by that? You just screwed up, right? No.
No, it's not about that. It's just
Yeah.
you're looking for understanding, right?
Right.
The second thing is, I would suggest to you, and again, this is my way of doing it.
Mhm.
I like to say because I want to start adding in more embedded commands and embedded questions and building the frame, to bring the other person a more transformative experience.
Okay.
And when you give more context, that directionalizes the person's thoughts, right? But if you leave it out there, where, hey, I don't understand what you mean, right? That person may not know what you mean in that context. Well, what part of that don't you understand? Right? So that's where you have to fill in those blanks in order to be able to directionalize that person's thoughts.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, it depends on what the context of the conversation is going on.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's welcome our newcomers. Mark, welcome back. I see you got off a little bit early, and so you decided to join us, as opposed to when it's over.
Yeah, I missed the last couple of them, so
Well,
I definitely gotta get in tonight. Good to see you guys. James, thank you. Matt, Tom.
Mark?
Well, hopefully you saw the videos.
Oh yes, I have. I've been going over it.
Okay.
So I'm still beginner.
Well, that's where you build skill sets, is by using it.
Definitely.
And so I want to jump into the next part. Are there any questions on this? Tom, Matt, do you have any questions on this?
I'll jump in, Matt. So the only thing that's I'm thinking about is how important is understanding a person's representational system part of conversational hypnosis. In other words, we're talking about tonality, but what if the person's highly visual or
well, yeah, I mean, from that point of view, then it goes towards how you describe things, right? So you would describe it using very visual words. But I would suggest to you a little easier way to do it, because I know the way you were taught, you're thinking of tracking, right? In terms of tracking what, how they're, are they using visual words? Are they using auditory words? And I'm going to give you a something you can use right away, something all of you can use right away, right? To make it easy for yourself. Use their own words.
Exactly, their own words. Yeah.
Use their own words. Okay, especially if you're on the phone, write them down.
Yeah, don't paraphrase. Exactly.
Don't paraphrase. Don't paraphrase. Use their own words, because if you use their own words, you're automatically in the same representational system they are.
Well, yeah, I tell you, I run into that where it's backfired a couple of times, because when I've given the people back their own words, I realize what they said and I didn't like it.
It's okay. So it's not literally, repeating back what they said.
No, I mean, they don't like, they realize what they said, it either embarrassed them or wasn't the right thing that they wanted to say. So you have to be a little careful of that.
Well, I'll tell you, Tom. I'll tell you, Tom. Yeah. When I don't have to think about it, I just go right into it. I just use your words back at you, right? I tell you. You said, I'll tell you, right? And so I just did it. It's the words that pertain to the representation system, not all the words, just the words. Because you started out with, I'll tell you.
I'll tell you. Very good.
And again,
very good.
These are words that are emphasized, right? So there's going to be certain words that they emphasize. And when you train yourself to listen for them, you can just use them. Right? And it makes life easier. The whole point. Okay, so what's the name of the meetup group? Applied NLP and Hypnosis. It's all about application and using it to make your life better. Theoretically, for at least 3 of us, making more money. I don't know about you, Matt, because you're,
I need money.
Okay.
You got extra? Send me some.
Oh, well, we'll see. I mean, next time I go down to the Bahamas, we'll talk about it.
Get me into the Orlando as an intern.
I know. Call Kathleen.
Yeah, you get me in. You
call Kathleen. Kathleen's in charge of it. I'm not in charge of any of that.
I'll follow up.
I just show up.
Who else? I'm interested in going. to do the what do they call that? The last one, it's the training, but the charisma.
Trainer, charisma enhancement. Yeah, that's the one I'm going to be down at.
I want to do that again, man.
So yeah, go down. It's in August 10th. It starts.
Yeah, I'll pay for my hotel. I just don't want to.
You got to pay for your hotel. I mean, you know, you get that free. But I can tell you that I just booked, and it's $89 a night. So it's actually at a good rate.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then, so who teaches that?
Be
John
right back.
Pavline, or he's probably got a whole bunch of people teaching that, I'm guessing.
Richard, John, and Kathleen,
So those three.
and guys like me.
All right. Cool. Cool.
You know.
Kathleen, I'm showing up. Let me in. Let me in.
So yeah, I mean, well, no, you can repeat the classes because since you already took it, they give you a discount.
Oh yeah. That's
So,
nice.
but yeah, I go to purenlp.com, and yeah, that's where the you know, you can get the information from there. They'll send you information.
Yeah, I'd do charisma again. That was so much fun. Oh my gosh.
It's intense. It's
Yeah.
intense. It's transformative though.
Yeah.
They'll send you a couple of PDFs too. I just signed up for it, I think yesterday or the day before. The message comes from Kathleen.
They send you an application.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, they don't want assholes.
Okay, well, I guess I won't be joining you guys down in Orlando. No, I'm kidding.
But yeah, so, well, I mean, they want to be careful about who they have in there, you know, because again, one bad person can ruin the group. Yeah, it can ruin the experience for the group. So, yeah, I would suggest, you know, doing it. It's certainly something that you increase your presentation skills, your communication skills a lot because it's intense. And I can tell you this, I was making good money before I started training with them. I make like 4 times the amount of money I make since training with Richard. So,
Well, now you got my attention. That's for sure. That's great.
yeah. But it goes into what you put into it.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't do this to start teaching. Okay, I did this to make money, and then I was living in Southern California, and there were a lot of really bad people saying they were like master trainer of this and that, and they suck. So I said, okay, well, I have to get the piece of paper then, because I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to go and train with Richard. And besides the fact that Richard was not looking so great back then because he had been ill for a long time. And his wife, unfortunately, at the time, had been ill for many years, and he was taking care of her, not taking care of himself. Then I show up, and he looks great. And he's remarried to somebody who makes him take care of himself. She's great too, and I think he's going to be around for a long time. But I was worried he might not be. So I would say take advantage of it while you can. In the meantime, we have these meetups that, of course, you're always welcome to be at.
Thank you.
So, yeah. Mark, let me ask you, are there any things you want to go over? You want to make sure that we cover? Mark, you're on mute. Okay, maybe he stepped away for a moment. Anyway, we're going to get into the most common use of conversational hypnosis right now. Can you guess what that is?
No, I can't think. But what if I could think? What would it look like?
You picked that up from one of the Tony Robbins guys.
No, I'm not a Tony Robbins guy. I don't.
No, I know, but you trained with.
No, I train with this guy Doug O'Brien and Kevin Creedon, which are part of the John Lavelle and Kathy group, the sect of NLP, and they were very heavily connected and brought in speakers like who came over? Well, Andy Austin, right? Andy Austin, Nick Kemp, and that guy from Colorado who died a couple of years ago. What was his name? The guy who wrote all the
Steve Andreas.
Yeah, Steve Andreas. So he
Yeah.
used to show up too. So that's the camp that I come from. So I am not a Tony Robbins at all.
That's
guy.
okay. Tony sends a lot of people over. You know, they want to learn some stuff, and he's very effective at what he does. Actually, I suggest to people that watch what he does. You know, and so there's on. You guys have Netflix?
Oh yeah. I watched that. It was good. The what Date with Destiny or something?
Yeah, watch what he does because he uses the skills very well. You know, his state control is really good. So I suggest people watch that because you can break down what he does and see what he does. Always go back to what they're doing, not what they're saying so much. What's he doing? And you'll learn a lot. But anyway, most common use of conversational hypnosis. Matt, do you know what it is?
Talking to yourself.
Exactly.
Oh,
Internal dialogue.
funny.
Because whether you know it or not, you're very good at conversational hypnosis already. Unfortunately, you're only doing it internally. So you're affecting one person, sometimes for the good, sometimes for the not so good. But no matter what you're doing, it's very effective. So the question is, they say, well, how do you get out of your own way? It's not so much getting out of your own way. It's actually changing the way you're communicating with yourself. Right? So
Brilliant. It's brilliant.
So here's the thing. Are there things you should do?
Should?
Yeah.
Could do.
Now, are there things you should do? Like, like I should, paint the house, or I should, eat better food, or I should, do that. Like, are there things you tell yourself you should do?
Should you brush your teeth tonight?
Yeah.
People you interact with will probably be happy if you did.
I mean, I could do it. I have the choice to do it, right?
But do you
want to?
But do you tell yourself that? Because that's the most common one, right?
Yeah,
Where people say, I should do this, I should do. And guess what? Most people don't do it.
Yeah, it's true.
Right?
Yeah.
And if somebody tells you you should do something, 99% of the time, you're not going to do it unless the consequence to not doing it is much worse. Like your wife will get mad at you, or you'll get fired, right? Right? But guess what? My personal opinion is that it goes back to when you're a kid, when you're a little kid. Because when you're a little kid, adults tell you, you should do this, or you should do that, in school, you should do this, you should do. So when we get older, we push back against that naturally. Now, there are some people who, if you say to somebody, you should do something, they'll say, absolutely not. Sometimes they'll tell themselves, I should do something, and they'll do it. But that's a little rare. Most people, when the word should comes up, the answer is, yeah, go fuck yourself. And it's true. And even when it's ourselves.
I should do that.
Right? That's what's called a modal operator. It's a motivational word. Right? And the thing you have to understand is that modal operators are very idiosyncratic to the individual. So for some people, not a large percentage that I've found, the word should is motivating. For most of them, it's one of the biggest demotivating things. And, whether it's they're telling themselves or whether somebody else is telling them. The answer basically is, fuck you. No, I'm not doing that. But
I got divorced. Golly, gee.
But that's also important when you're using that word with other people too, right? So, if you have kids and you tell them you should do something, a lot of times they'll drag their feet until the last minute because they know they'll get punished if they don't do it. So they'll get in trouble if they don't do it. That may not be the right word to motivate them. Now, there's a whole list of these words that's very interesting. And oddly enough, there's words like can. So, Tom, that word works for you, right? So if you're talking to yourself, may do something, want, those seem to be pretty good for you, right? No? Okay, well, here's the thing. You'll feel it kinesthetically when you talk to yourself that way. And I'm going to tell you an exercise that you could do for yourself, to find out which ones will work for you. But it's also really important to know when you're speaking to other people to be aware of which words you're using. So if you're talking to your team, Tom, and you tell people, oh, we should do something, and you wonder why it doesn't get done, it's because you use the word should, right? Mark, I know you're in sales. Be careful about, oh yeah, you should do this, because you'll probably get pushback, right? So if you say you might want to consider doing this, right?
That's softer.
Yeah, because it's not like pushing somebody, it's inviting them to do something. You're pulling them in as opposed to pushing them. When you push somebody, they tend to push back.
It's like resistance.
Yeah,
I think. I mean, like even you said just the word by itself, it implies resistance and pressure. Whether you're telling it to a child, to someone that's on the same level as you, or even to an elder,
right?
It's pressure.
You pushed back. You felt it. You when I said that. People react unconsciously to it, right? So
yes.
One of the important things, and it starts with ourselves, is to understand which words motivate us so we can do stuff better for ourselves. We can achieve more when we take control of our internal dialogue, right? And so that goes towards the first thing is to find out which of these words motivate us. So things like can, right? Things like may, things like want, right? As opposed to need, right? So need might be something, I need to do something that may get you motivated, right? But if you tell somebody you need to do something, well, Tom, you should have seen your expression.
Well, yeah, I don't like to be told to do.
Yeah, exactly. You don't like it, right? And so it's important to know that, like if you're managing a project, right? When you're motivating the people who you're working with, to be careful about those words that you're using. And also to be careful about which ones of those work for you, right? Because I need might be different than you need, right? So if I say you need to do something, you're probably not going to do it. And so it's important to understand, if you say I need to do something, if that works for you, then use it. So I have a friend we tried this exercise with, right? And it was really interesting. Every single word had no movement at all, like all the common ones, like want, could, might, should, need, no movement at all. Didn't react at all, or he reacted in a way that was just lateral, right? Didn't move him forward at all. This is how idiosyncratic it gets. The only one that motivated him was the word must.
It's a good one.
It was very eye-opening because I'd never seen that before. Right?
Must is a big one. I must do it.
Yeah, but most people, no, but even you must work for him. But you should, or you have to, or you need to, didn't work for him.
Meaning that he has his own internal way of motivating him. Not everyone is the same.
Everybody's idiosyncratic. And it could even go down to being idiosyncratic to the point of context. So in a social context, it may be different than a business context. Right? Or in a context where getting stuff done for business might be different from getting yourself to go exercise regularly. Right? So it's important when you're not getting the result that you want, or you're not getting yourself to do the things that you want, or that, set up the goals that you want, to test if you're using the right words with yourself in this context. And that goes all towards conversational hypnosis, because you are all really good at conversational hypnosis with yourself. Right?
Question.
Yeah.
How about you heard the expression misery loves company, right? So when we use a word like must, need, should, how about we say, instead of saying you should or you must or you need to, we put the word we? Would that dilute the
No, not necessarily if you're with other people, because it depends how the other person processes it.
or like really? Because it like from previous work experience, it seems like when I say something like, oh, we need to do this, so it's not like I'm shoving it on them. I'm saying we're going to work on this together. And Mark, I think I felt, well, maybe it's my personal bias, I felt it was much more, I don't feel, what's the word, guilty, I guess, for lack of a better word, that I'm not pushing it onto them. Yeah, but what was the reaction of the other person? It was like, okay, because they have to do it, right? It's like people that are on my team. Right. Like when I say we need to do it. Right. So they I guess like they had no choice. They didn't have a choice, right? That's not exactly the same as motivating. But no, that's why I was saying that it goes to that expression, misery loves company. I guess I thought it would seem like it would dilute it, dilute the no, not necessarily. The pushback or the pressure. So yes, you get the modal operators first, right? Then you have to understand how you communicate with yourself. Sometimes if you say, I must do something, or I need to do something, right, that might be motivating. But if you're talking to yourself in the third person saying you need to do something, you may not do it. Like it's coming from outside. Right. So try that in a mirror tonight. Well, again, it's trying to see what works in the context. Right. So it all goes down to the quality of your communication is the response that you get. Right. If you're not getting the response you want, even from yourself, then you have to change the communication.
Is there a way of knowing this in another person before cycling through all and waiting for feedback, or even a group of people? Is there a way?
First, I would see. So certain things like need, must, have to, should, those are called modal operators of necessity. I would stay away from people who don't know the person about using necessity with them. Right? I would use what's called modal operators of possibility. Yeah, which are might, can, want to, those types of things. So if I say, well, you might want to try this, right? Or let's try this. Let's see what happens. That's, you know, and see what type of response you get.
Yeah, with others.
Yeah, let's try this for a couple of days and see what happens, and then we'll come back to it and see if they do it. If they don't, if you give yourself the timeline, right, where you know you have, oh, let's try this for a day and see how it works, right? And if they actually work on it, then that's good. Then you just keep going. If they don't work on it, it's like, well, you know, okay, see, so what happened? Okay, so now you really should do this, you know, by this time. Or, you know, you have to do this at this time so we can get on to the next phase, right? Because then that's how you can test to see what works. So I would start with something that's more permissive to see if they respond to that. You know, so that's when you're dealing with other people, right? That's where the external conversational hypnosis goes in. But the internal one is more important because that's about how you work with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And, you know, most of us need to work on ourselves because at the end of the day, who's our main client?
Us.
Exactly.
So are you saying necessity is better with the self than possibility?
No, it depends. Depends on the situation. Depends on what's going on. Right. So necessity is not always better because if you say, I should do something, or you tell yourself you should do something, how often do you do it? Be honest.
Yeah, no, it's not a powerful one at all. I should do that. Yeah, but yeah, I can.
Yeah, but I think I'll sit here and watch TV.
Yeah, I really should do that.
You know,
I really should.
Guys, I'm gonna have to drop off. I didn't realize it was gonna go this long, and I have to have dinner with the family. So, but I really want to.
You make it sound like such a chore, Tom.
I have to have dinner.
Yeah, I know. I'd rather do this actually.
How about I want to have dinner with the family and I'll watch the replay.
I get to have dinner with my family.
Yeah,
right there.
I get to have dinner with the family.
Oh, I'm so excited. I know I have the choice, and I choose.
Can you stay for 2 minutes to listen to the exercise? Because you could try this at home.
Okay.
Okay. And you could try this yourself. You're familiar with timeline, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So imagine you're standing on your
mine goes like this usually.
Well, imagine you've got a timeline and you're standing on it and it's running in front of you and behind you. Right?
Okay.
You got it? Now, is there something that you've wanted to do but haven't done yet?
Yeah. Become a trainer. And
okay. You want to become a trainer?
I do.
Okay, great. So you see the picture of that on your timeline, right? Okay. So now I'm going to ask you when you get a chance, right? We're going to go through it, but I'm going to ask you when you get a chance to stand up and give yourself enough space to move. Say, I want to become a trainer. See how far physically you move around the timeline, right? Then go back to the beginning and then say, I should become a trainer. See where you feel you should move if you move.
I'm actually dropping down. Okay.
Yeah, well, that one doesn't work for you.
No.
I need to become a trainer.
I'm stuck in the same place.
Yes.
Yeah.
I must become a trainer.
Moving a little bit ahead, but not much.
But not much, right?
Yeah.
I might become a trainer.
Yeah, it feels a little bit better.
It moves a little bit more, but not as much, right?
Yeah, a little bit further, but not too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can become a trainer.
Yeah, it's starting to open up. I'm further down the timeline now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So play with that exercise for yourself and for different situations. Yeah, how about you should become a trainer?
No, that makes me angry.
So you should doesn't work for you. So don't use that one with yourself.
I am a trainer. It moves me much further down the line saying I am.
Yeah. Right. So
Yeah.
play with this with different things that you want to do and see what works. There's going to be some that are common. There may be some that are contextual, depending on what it is, right? I should eat more salad, say, for example. Well, it's probably not going to happen, right? But maybe it's like, I want to eat more salad, or I am eating more salad, or I am eating healthier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it becomes more comfortable, right?
Yeah.
Just in the context, right? Just, again, play with it so you get to know your own mind.
It loosens up. I got it.
And that's what is important with how you communicate with yourself. That's the first step in your own conversational hypnosis that you're using with yourself.
Thank you. Yes. And I have to go, but I will be with you for the next session. I really enjoyed meeting everyone too. And I will see you whenever you set this up. And I'll make sure that I don't have any plans.
Well, that's okay. I mean, that's why we have video, but go down to Orlando. We'll meet in person if you want to, because I'll be there. I already booked the hotel, so I have to be there.
Seriously, thinking about that. Seriously.
I literally booked the hotel today. So
All right, yeah, $89.
that's a good price actually for July.
It's very good for July. Thank you, guys. I'll see you at the next session. Thanks.
Okay.
Again.
If you have any questions, wait for this to go up on the video. It'll be on Facebook and YouTube, and you'll be able to go over this part again as well.
Perfect. And I just sent you a LinkedIn request too. So.
Okay, great.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Take care, Tom.
Thanks.
Bye.
I have to get off too, so I just want to say that. I want to get back on to say that I'm going to
You
wait
were
for the
just
video.
off.
Huh?
You were just off, Mark.
Well, yeah, I know. Now I had to get off now. I had to get off again. No, before I was stepped away. Now I have to get off. I take care of something else in the home front now.
You have to, or you want to?
No, I need to.
Okay, well,
I look forward to the video, and I look forward to the next training.
Yeah, watch the video because I go over how to do this exercise.
Okay, definitely.
Okay, good.
Will do. Take care, Matt.
Thanks, Mark.
Bye.
Thanks, James. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one.
Talk to you later.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was good.
Okay, so any questions on that, Matt?
No, it's great. So yeah, it's a great little practice to do with people.
The important thing, I think, again, is to get the kinesthetics involved as well. So give yourself some space to be able to actually walk.
Mm-hmm.
And because that drives it home really well. And I know Tom actually got a lot out of it from just sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're able to move and you tell the person, okay, open your eyes, and they can see whether they're actually moved or they maybe move far. Maybe they moved off to the side, right?
Is it duplicatable? Like, for example, if I mix the sequence of the words up and jumbled it and did it in a different order?
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter because they'll move to where you just, as long as you tell them clearly, move to where you feel it. Now, there'll be some people who actually move off their timeline, right? Depending on the words they use. And then they wonder why they never get anything done.
Yeah.
Right? Because it actually moves them off the path of actually getting that done. So that is actually, I've found this to be really useful.
This was your friend that was moving sideways, you mean?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of his would just move him right off, and it was multiple words that moved him right off or moved him backwards even. Yeah, that's why if a person moves backwards, it's okay because it's just a data point. It's just for them to know, okay, well, that's not one that works for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's not about good or bad. It's about what works for that person.
Yeah.
Right? And again, it's idiosyncratic. But when you use it with the people you work with, have them move. And you'll see that sometimes they don't, or sometimes they move backwards, or sometimes they move sideways. And that really is, it's very revealing for them. Yeah, they have a big aha moment in those cases, which is which is a lot of fun. And then run them through with the one that works for them in different scenarios. Right? So they start getting used to it and starting to take control of their own internal dialogue.
When you say scenarios, you mean different goals?
Yeah, about different things they would want to do, or possibly have been thinking about doing but haven't done it before. Those types of things.
And you find that the context, with change in context, the operator, modal operator changes too, right? You said?
Not always, but it could.
Okay.
That's why if you change the context, you get to test.
You do a new test. Yeah.
Well, you test. I would say test with the one that works.
Yes, right. True. Yeah.
First, and then see. Okay. Well, what happens if we use this word? Okay. Well, that doesn't work, because there could be one that works a lot better even.
Yeah.
Right? But you don't know until you try it. Right? Remember, always test, operate, test, exit.
Right.
Right. So you have to test.
That's a good one.
And there's a lot of problems sometimes. I think a lot of people who do this stuff, they just kind of take it on faith that it works. But if you test, that also begins to future pace the person. Right? Because once it proves it to them, then they're not taking it on faith. They're getting experience of it. Then you can actually future pace them. Yeah, based on their experience, not based on, okay, well, I told you it worked.
Right. A knowing rather than a belief. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And again, it goes towards, it's experiential. But you can do this on video. You can, I've done it just on phone calls. So it works in all of these contexts. It works best when obviously you're there. And now, you can see more people, of course, and things like that. But either way, it's really important to first start with yourself to know what works, and then to bring it out to the people that you work with.
Right.
You'll find it's actually very useful, especially on an ongoing basis. Yeah, because if you have people slipping back, a lot of that has to do with how they're communicating with themselves.
The getting a person into that state where they're going to be still enough to actually travel on their timeline in authenticity, to give it a good go,
Well, they don't have to be that. So all you say, let's play with this. Hey, let's play with something, and say that, and just go to your first impression. Go to where you feel it.
Just move fast. You don't have to beat around the bush.
Yeah, no.
It's calm and silent and all that.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and he was talking about, he was learning self-hypnosis, and they just get too slow. It's like you move them through the experience. When you move them through the experience, they don't have a chance to intellectualize it. Right?
Question on duplicatable. I mean, so if I start out with one operator, then I would cycle through 4 or 5 operators to see which one is best, and the last one was the one that they moved furthest on. How do I test that it is actually that operator, not just the fact that it was the 5th one? You know what I mean?
Well, again, you say, oh, okay, is there something else you wanted to do?
Well, no. I'm trying to verify the validity that it is that operator, not just like the 5th try that did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I understand. That's what I say. Well, is there something else you want?
Try a different context. Yeah. And then jumble the words and then see again. Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Well, you may not have to. I mean, the person may just go.
Oh, on the first one. Yeah. Well, no, you said try that word again. I'm just trying to verify the science is what I'm trying to do.
It's not science. It's It's experiential. That's why I said it's idiosyncratic to the person.
Well, it's subjectively science for the person.
Science is not subjective, it's objective.
Well, this is what I'm calling subjective science. I'm coining a term. Coining a term.
Yeah, that's why that's why it's idiosyncratic. It's subjective to the person, but as long as it works, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why, you know, with your clients, right, if you say, okay, once you find that one, right, and you're helping them get what they want,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, so how often do you see them? Like once a week or something? Or
Every day, every morning.
okay, so use that and track the progress.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you make a commitment to me. You're going to tell yourself, I'm going to, you know, I'm doing this, right? Not I'm going to try or something. I'm doing this, right? Whatever the word is, use that word.
Right.
And when I see you tomorrow, tell me how it went.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. And so they either did it or they didn't do it. And you say, well, I didn't use that word. I was using the old one. I was like, okay, well, yeah, that didn't work for you, right? So let's use the new one. Let's see what happens, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's about teaching them how to communicate with themselves properly, right? Because again, it's conversational hypnosis. They're doing a very good job hypnotizing themselves to not get what they want.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's normal for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, it's a lifelong.
They've practiced it for many, many years.
Yeah. It's habit. Yeah.
Well, they're experts at it.
Yeah.
You know, so the thing is, that's why they're coming to see you.
Right. The rewiring.
Well, you're teaching them a different way to do things, something that's going to work well. Any questions on any of this or anything you wanted to cover?
No, I'm glad I asked the questions I did.
And the reason why you do it on the timeline, right?
Mm-hmm.
It gets back towards that immersive experience that we talked about right at the beginning, right? So when the person is moving, as opposed to just imagining, right? It immerses them in the experience a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you're adding in the kinesthetics, you're adding in the auditory when they're telling themselves this, and when you're telling them use this word, right? They're visualizing the timeline, right? So it changes that experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What if they choose a goal that they don't really believe in? Like, I want to be a trainer. Like when Tom was saying he wants to be a trainer, when he said the words, it was sort of weak, right? Like he's really not convinced that he wants to be a trainer. He laughed, he chuckled when he said it. You know, I think. I mean, we could look at.
Well, it doesn't matter, right? So that's
I
where
didn't mean to do that. Sorry. Yeah, I just realized what I just did. But
well, that's where the testing comes in.
Yeah.
Right. So it's about so that's why I went through that with him, so he can do it in different contexts to see what works best for him.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
for all of us, again, it's idiosyncratic. Some there may be some overlap. Right, because we're all using the same language.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a valid question. I mean, let's say that the goal that we decide to test ourselves on the timeline is really it's something that we're trying to convince ourselves or test whether or not we really want it.
Well, I mean, that's where you go to what do you really want? You know, why are your clients coming to see you? I would imagine at this point you would know what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's what you could test against. I imagine you would know what you want, or if you don't know what you want, then maybe that's a good exercise too.
Well, yeah, people say what they, yeah, okay, all right, I guess.
Now, the people, like I said before, are often afraid to say what they want. That's what we have to uncover, because they're afraid of being disappointed. So they think if they articulate what they want, they're not going to get it and they'll be disappointed. And I say, it's okay to want stuff. I tell people that. I tell people I coach, it's okay to want stuff. It's not okay to hurt people to get it, but it's okay to want stuff. And then you can figure out how to get it in a way that's ethical for you.
So sometimes the wishy-washy statement of what they want is because they're not convinced that they can get it if it's a realistic goal.
They're afraid they're going to be disappointed.
They think they're going to be disappointed. So when
Yeah.
they voice it, it's not so confidently voiced.
Yes.
Yeah.
So often they'll say it in a way where they may not even be what they want. They've been told that's what they want.
Well, this is kind of what I was getting at. To really, yeah. So really, before we can test the modal operator, is the goal actually valid?
Well, I mean, again, if you're seeing your client, that's one of the first things to establish.
Yeah. No, true. Yeah, no, I agree. No,
What do you want? That's what you've heard me ask that a lot. Well, what do you want?
What do you want to get out of this? Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, so if you're not sure it's valid, then that's where it's important to drill down a little bit.
Yeah. Correct.
Okay, so if that's it, I can give you some time back. But unless you have any other questions.
No, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Okay, good. Well, thanks for coming.
Let's remember to brush our teeth.
I always do. I don't know about you. But, unless you're trying to scare the birds away. Because I don't hear them anymore.
It's nighttime. A few owls. Yeah, man. So you're gonna be in Orlando, eh?
Yeah. So I told Kathleen I would be down there, so I will be down there. I'll be bringing copies of the new book.
Yeah. Now, what's that one called?
Influential Rapport.
Influential Rapport.
Yeah. It's about the 7 stages of rapport, the 7 levels.
Oh wow, cool. How did the first one sell? What kind of response?
The first one had been on the bestseller list for a while. The second one hit it for a while, and so.
What is that
But
bestseller list? How many?
Amazon bestseller.
How
Well,
many?
it's whatever the ranking is. You get ranked according to sales. But the first one came out. Was it 2008 now or something like that? It came out a long time ago. So.
Right. But I mean, how do they quantify best seller? Like how many sold, or depends on the length of the book or the price?
No, it depends on what category and how the sales are in the category.
And the category is based just on the genre or on other categories?
Well, you have to list the category that it's in.
Like a genre, like a.
Yeah, like self-help, hypnosis, that type of thing. Yeah. So the first one was it was on the sales and selling one for quite a while, and then I had a friend of mine. We did an experiment with advertising, and then it hit after like 8 years. It hit the bestseller list again. So.
Good, man. Yeah, it was a real easy read. I remember I read it a couple times.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's applied stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole point. It's how to apply these skills. Mm-hmm. It's not theoretical.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Thanks, man.
All right, thanks. I will see you next time.
Are you gonna? So you won't be in Orlando then? It's gonna work.
No, I'll do it from Orlando.
Okay.
It's no big deal. I mean, I'll be bringing. I have to bring a computer. So, in fact, the computer I'm using right now, I got in Orlando because my other one died. I had to run to the store and get a new one. So.
Very good. Okay. All right, man.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks again. Bye.
Okay. Bye.